Am I the a-hole for evicting my roommates after buying the condo we rented together? I live in a small condo, about 600 square feet, with my roommate Caitlin. We didn't know each other before moving in. She rents the bigger room and I'll rent the smaller one. Our landlord told us she wants to sell the condo, and I jumped in on the opportunity to buy it. She sold it to me almost 15% below market price, so it's great. I already gave her the deposit and we will sign the papers in a few days. Then the condo will be mine 3 months from now. After me giving our landlord a deposit, Caitlin was ecstatic. She brought a champagne to celebrate, told me I'm the best, and that she will save so much money from now on by not having to pay rent. I don't know where she got this idea from, and I thought our landlord already told her how long she has until she has to move out. But it seems not. I told Caitlin that it's a small condo and don't need a roommate anymore. She will have to move out in 3 months, but I'd gladly help her look for a new place. She flipped out. She asked me if I seriously want to evict her and throw her out on the street. She said she thought we were friends, and if she had the money to buy the place, she would have let me stay for free because that's what decent people do. Then she switched and started bargaining with me that I can have the bigger room and she will stay in the small room. She won't bother much, and so on. I feel a bit guilty. I really thought it was given that she will have to move out. Maybe I should have told Caitlin before giving the deposit to our landlord. I feel sorry for her. I know she doesn't make a lot of money, but at 26, I don't want to live in a small room anymore, especially if I own a condo. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Our landlord told us that she will put the condo on the market in a few weeks, but we don't have to worry. She will tell the new owner that she won't give over the keys right away, so we have enough time to look for a new place. We are month to month. I didn't think Caitlin would think she didn't have to move out anymore, just because I'm the one who bought a condo. As for the legal issues, where we live, there is no such thing as a lease continuing with a new owner. I can't evict Caitlin because I'm not the one she has a contract with. Her lease is with the current landlord, and the landlord has to give Caitlin a written notification, which seems like she hasn't done yet. I'm still buying the house. In my first edit, I explained what our landlord told us 2 weeks ago. She first announced that she will sell soon and we will need to move out. Then I talked to her and eventually made an offer. Now for the top comments. She immediately assumed she wouldn't have to pay rent? Why? To me, this would have been a conversation of if I would then pay rent to you, or if I should start looking for a place. You gave her ample time to find a new place and offered to help look. Not stay home. That's the part I don't understand either. Pretty entitled for someone to assume that they won't have to pay rent somewhere. I hope he's not the a-hole at all. Right, I would have at least assumed I'd still have to pay the same rent. I am disturbed that Caitlin first thought was that she would live rent-free. That is incredibly entitled. Did she think you got it for free? If you want to do a nice gesture, you could help her look for a new place, or help her pay for movers, etc., depending on the severity of her financial situation. But you are not entitled to keep her as a roommate, nor should you feel an ounce of regret for doing what is right for you. Congratulations on your new place. Not stay home. Not only did she expect that she'd stay rent-free, but she initially expected to keep everything the same, with her in the larger room. The audacity. Not the a-hole. Once you have officially bought the condo, find a good landlord lawyer and legally notify her of how long she has to stay. If she stays beyond that, you will have to evict her, and having a lawyer to do it properly is important. Be careful that she doesn't do any damage to the place. Also, make sure the landlord gives you the security deposit both she and you paid. You will have to return her portion. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for being mad at my fat roommate who has been wearing my clothes and completely ruining them? Recently, I have been noticing that any new clothes I get are becoming less tight and looser a few days after first purchasing them. It was making me doubt myself if I was the reason for that, like maybe I was gaining weight and was loosening them when I tried them on myself. But then I found out that it's actually my roommate who has been trying them out for a few hours when I wasn't home. I went really crazy at her. She basically ruined like 5 new sets of expensive clothes. They are so loose now because of her fat body. And I look so ridiculous and uncomfortable in them as I'm much skinnier than her. Her excuse was that they looked so nice that she wanted to try them out, especially when she has a problem finding new clothes she can wear, her words. And I don't like it because she didn't tell me about it until I caught her myself. She said that she thought it was something so insignificant that she didn't need permission from me. Let's just say that things didn't go well. and I decided to get a lock for my closet, which offended her and got her on the defensive, especially when I called her fat, which she is. She is literally obese. She is 80 kilograms, 157 centimeters. Am I the a-hole? Note, I didn't insult her with fat. It wasn't an insult. It was just me telling her that our body sizes are very different, which is where I used the word fat to describe her body size, which it took as an insult, and that offended her and got her on the defensive. Not the a-hole. It's your property. And not asking if they can try them on is a kind of invasion of privacy and a sanitary issue. Good luck with this roommate of yours, OP. Yes, I suppose it would be more diplomatic to phrase it as too big, but facts are still facts. Not the a-hole. The last thing I will do is be diplomatic if someone is stealing from me, and she very well knew what she was doing. Not the a-hole. Not sure why people are saying everyone sucks here. She literally ruined your clothes because she's bigger than you. Fat. That's the word. Could have you used different words? Yes. Agreed. I am fat. It is not a bad word. It is an accurate description of my body. I wouldn't put it on someone else's clothes at all, but I especially wouldn't do it when I knew that our difference in size would cause damage to the clothes. I agree with you. I have too much fat on my body, therefore I'm fat. I don't like being called fat. I don't think anyone does. But I wouldn't put myself in that position to anger someone by basically stealing, if only for a while, someone else's clothes and ruining them. Not the a-hole. Who tries on someone else's clothes, especially expensive clothes, without asking? It was mean to call her fat, but she has to know you're not the same size since she's been stretching out your clothing. You would have been better off explaining to her what happened and asking her to just buy them from you at that point because they can no longer fit you properly, before you go verbally insulting her and throwing locks on your closet door. You would have been better off explaining to her what happened. But why? The roommate is fat, not stupid. The roommate knows what happened. The roommate is the reason all of this happened. Next story. Am I the a-hole for my response when my boyfriend brought up the apartment purchase/ownership in front of his family? Context: I, female 29, have been with my boyfriend Adam, male 27, for 2.5 years. He's the quiet/shy type. It's very hard to get him to open up about what bothers him. And for now, I'm the one with an income. We get along easily, though he can be a bit unreasonable sometimes. Example, he doesn't cook because he's worried I won't like his food, but still cooks for himself, and it smells pretty telling that his cooking is good. Another example is that he doesn't do most chores, saying he's worried he might break/damage something. It's frustrating, but we're working on fixing it. Now onto the more complicated issue. I put money aside since 2015 to buy an apartment, and I'm finally able to get it done this year. When I told him this, he got agitated and said I should wait a little longer till we're married. But I said no. He started complaining about how bad he feels about seeing me buy the apartment myself without having him contribute. I asked what I was supposed to do because it kinda sounded like a he problem, no offense. But he got so worked up and gave me 2 options. 1 is I put his name on the title, and 2 is not buy the apartment till marriage so it'll become a shared marital asset. I said no and that was final and he should drop it. He did eventually. Then at his family's house, I was taken aback when he started complaining about the apartment, and again told me to either put his name on a title or wait till marriage to buy it, cause he feels like there's a huge power imbalance here, and that he can't bring himself to accept it. He also said that it makes him feel like he contributes nothing. I snapped and said, the reason you feel like you contribute nothing is because you literally contribute nothing, and I suggest you fix that by actually finding a job and having a decent income. His family looked shocked. He glanced at me, then got up and walked away. I waited for him to come back, but had to go home because his mom said he felt too overwhelmed and wanted some space. She then basically started shaming me for my statement and hinted about financial mistreatment and control over her son. He's not home yet, demanding another tell about the apartment, probably expecting me to agree to one option. Added in case it matters, he has a disability that limits his job opportunities. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. 1. Second paragraph sounds a lot like weaponized incompetence. 2. He brought it up in front of family to get mama to back him. 3. He sounds like a bit of a leech, to be honest. And 4. For what reason does he want his name on a title if he hasn't put money into it? The answer to 4 is so that he can break up with her, force the sale and get money out of it. He doesn't have a job, so that would be the only way he's getting any money. This, take the apartment and lose the boyfriend. It will not get better. I won't clean as this is not my apartment. Why would I help move in your apartment? And for the next boyfriend, if he goes to the husband stage, keep your apartment on a prenup. In summation, my unemployed boyfriend, who does no housework, refuses to cook, only for me as he will happily cook for himself, and contributes nothing financially, expects me to give him half of my apartment. He wants this to be a marital asset because he wants to be able to take half of it freely when he walks away. Girl, you are not the a-hole. But why are you even in this relationship? I will seriously never understand these women who describe their men and there's not a single positive attribute to him. Like, girl, you clearly have cognition enough to realize your boyfriend does sweet nothing for you, so why are you with him? It comes down to the person thinking that having someone, anyone, is better than being alone. We've all been there at some point. I honestly do not know why Opie is with this guy though. He sounds like an absolute loser. Opie has her bar set on the floor. Not the a-hole. He's playing a con and he literally told you. He wants his name on the home or he wants you to marry him so he still legally gets the home as your husband. I suggest leaving before you purchase the home, so he has no legal claim at all. This guy's doing a marinara flag dance with his weaponized incompetence. Put my name on a property I gave zero money towards? Absolutely not. Opie, you nailed it when you told him he contributes all of nothing to your relationship. Why on earth are you dragging this relationship out? That's not a relationship. He's basically demanding you adopt him. Not the a-hole. Being single with your own apartment is better than carrying the dead weight around for life. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for asking my wife to help pay for private school despite separate finances? I have been married to Stella for 7 years now. Together, we have 5 children. Daughters from my previous relationship, Kira 11 and May 7. A son and daughter from Stella, Brianna 13 and Jaden 8. And a son together, Lucas 2. My 2 are 50-50 custody while my stepchildren only see their bio father every second weekend. My wife and I agreed to split finances and have mostly kept separate, aside from a joint account for essentials, bills, groceries, house, etc. We both used to be high earners, though had terrible hours. When our parental leave for Lucas was finishing, our children begged us not to go back to work, that they hated the before/after school care and wanted us. In the end, my wife went back but I quit and got a new job. It was much lower pay but essentially school hours, so I was able to be there for our kids. Stella has been paying more of our joint expenses, but otherwise has been fine. I wouldn't say the split has been firm though. I do buy stuff for my stepchildren or pay when I take them all out. It's more the big payments that are separate. Brianna goes to a private high school. I was talking about high schools to my sister since Kira is year 6 and realized that on my current pay, I won't be able to afford to send her with her sister. My ex is barely willing to pay the costs related to public school, let alone a private one. The school is so much better than the nearby public school, and I know Kira wants to go to her sister's school, so I try to talk to Stella and ask if she would be willing to help. It's education, and she's close with my daughters, so it's not like I'm asking her to pay for something crazy. Stella refused, and I would have accepted it even though I was annoyed. But then she went on saying that I knew we were split finances, and I made my choice when I took the lower pay job. That I got more time for less money, so I can't complain that I'm paid less. I got pretty upset about that. I didn't stay home for fun. It was for our family, our children. I loved my job, but I had to sacrifice it for them. It was worth it, of course, but still. Stella basically said that it was my decision, so tough luck that she's not going to finance me. I got angry with that and told her that she knew the consequences of her job, so she can deal with her children then. Her money won't be used on mine, so I won't use my extra time on hers. They can stay in care until our old hours. Stella got angry back, accusing me of using her for money and calling me a complete a-hole for suggesting what I did for my stepchildren. We argued pretty bad. She thinks I'm being greedy, selfish, and petty. But it's not like I'm asking to mooch. I would still foot 50% and get my ex to contribute as much as I can get her to. Yes, it was my choice. But it was for all the children, for our family. Besides, I literally take care of my stepchildren more than my own, 85% versus 50%. I'm not just being lazy or focusing on my own children. I've been there for them all. So I think it's frankly unfair for her to refuse to help even a little. But obviously she thinks I'm being an a-hole. Everyone sucks here, but you more. Like heavily leaning you're the a-hole. You needed to discuss this when you decided to cut your hours. It doesn't sound like the decision was in any way a mutual one made between you and your wife, but all you. Despite that, your wife has been willing to pay more for your shared expenses, which at least somewhat compensates for the extra childcare you were doing. For some reason, you waited until your kid was about to start high school to even think about where she'd go and how you'd afford it. You sprung on your wife that despite your prior agreements being different, you want her to pay tens of thousands in tuition she wasn't planning on. Also, no kid needs to go to private high school. Your daughter will be fine at a public school. I also assume you are not paying any of Brianna's tuition. So she's going to have to pay full tuition for her kids and half for yours. That's a ton of money. I don't know exactly what she makes, but she'd have to be incredibly wealthy for that to be chump change. Your wife also should have been more proactive about thinking through how all this would play out. You should have made a thorough and explicit agreement when you quit your job. This marriage sounds doomed, honestly. Never change jobs for less pay without considering all of the financial implications. Don't change jobs that will have lifestyle implications. Yep, money is way more important than your kids. This subs sometimes, I swear. Changing the lifestyle of a partnership that you wish to continue should be discussed as much as possible and agreed upon. Unilateral decisions make for short partnerships. Update. I was an accident, and after years of negligence, I told my family I wished they had terminated me or given me up for adoption. Original post. I was basically an accident. When I was born, my siblings were 16 male, 18 female, 20 female, 23 female, and my parents were both 46. I was never mistreated in my childhood, but I was neglected and my entire family resented me. My parents didn't really think that they would get pregnant again, but here we are. I was never really looked after for by anyone, and basically had to raise myself. No one ever really spent any time with me or played with me or anything when I was a kid. They didn't ever buy anything significant for me, just handed my siblings clothes and things. I realized this as I got older, so I focused on myself. My thought process at the time was that there was something wrong with me because my siblings were loved by them. So if I improved myself and did things for them, maybe then they would accept me and love me. I always got the best grades in school. My father was a football enthusiast and played in high school, but I was a basketball lover. But I still dropped it and took up football just to make him proud. I make sure I did all my chores readily, always kept my room clean, but nothing I did was ever enough for them. Like, for example, if I was first in class, my parents would ask me, why didn't I get a higher score? They ignored the percentile but focused on the percentage, and things like that. My siblings or parents never even bothered to show up for a single game. I was never appreciated for what I was, only detested me for what I wasn't. My siblings also did not allow me to hang out with them at any time at all. We celebrated my father's birthday yesterday. I am 16 today. My siblings did not live with us anymore and my mother had to leave early and would not return till later in the evening. So it was just him and me for the day, so I decided to serve him breakfast in his bed just as he woke up. I cooked and bought him a tie for a present. I know it's not the best present, but I was on a budget. Nothing too extravagant because I want to save as much money as possible for college, but it was definitely a smart one. I also cooked lunch for us and took care of all the chores. The most he could come up with was a pathetic thank you, and it was clear he wanted me to leave him alone, so I did just that. We all went out, siblings included, to a dinner, and the way these would go is that they would all have a good time and I would just sit in a corner. This is the case with almost all family dinners we have ever attended. We went back home and I don't know why. I really don't know what triggered it. But for some reason, I just started crying all of a sudden. Maybe it was them being so happy together. I don't know. And when they asked me what happened, I just blew up at them and told them how I felt about my entire childhood. How they never showed me any kind of love and affection among other things. I don't know exactly what I said, but I do remember I ended it by saying that I wish that they had gotten rid of me if they hate me so much. Or could have given me up for adoption so they could all live their lives without me. My eldest sister started to say something, but I just ran up to my room and closed the door. And went to sleep listening to some Hans Zimmer because they just kept knocking at the door. Early this morning, I went out my window and went to a secluded spot that I often go to, usually to play some guitar or just pace around listening to music or just enjoy the sound of nature. I'm sitting down here right now writing this on my phone at 4:30 a.m. and don't know what to do at all. I'm sorry if I just went out on a rant, but this is the first time that I am able to tell my childhood to anyone. Now, how exactly do I tackle this problem? I have pretty much given up on my family and have spent enough of my time trying to please them. Do I still try to form any kind of bond with them? Do I completely drop them off? What exactly is the best thing to do here? Now for the top advice before reading the update. Wow. This actually got me emotional. I can't imagine your pain. You are doing great in school and will soon be going to college. Do you think you can hold it together until then? Once you move out of college, you are on your own, man. Since you told them how you feel, they will try to make you feel better. If it feels genuine to you, go with it. If not, keep strong. Hold to yourself and keep going. Your life is worth living. You have great potential and you will excel. Try to focus on all that you want to accomplish in life now that you are done trying to please your family. Life gets so much better in college. You may even find that you make friends that become like family. Try to live on campus your first year. Being away will give you and your family time to process, and it may even heal your relationship with them. You'll no longer rely on them and will be able to forge your own path. I'd also encourage you to look into therapy once you get to college. Many campuses will offer a counselor for free. It sounds like you've never had anyone to talk to about this, and a therapist can really help validate everything you are feeling and help you process. Our experiences in early childhood can affect us in so many ways. It will no doubt affect the relationships you form with new people as a young adult. Starting to process what your family put you through as soon as possible will set you up to have healthier relationships outside of your family. Start living for yourself and take back your confidence. Rejoin basketball. Get excited about college by ordering the catalogs and envisioning where you might want to live and study. You can shadow careers, which I recommended doing ASAP. I can't tell you how many times I changed my major or how many people, including myself, wasn't a fan of the day-to-day job and wish they'd chosen something else. Focus on the future because I don't think your family can make up for 16 years, but I've also found that family gets closer when you move out. Thank you, and I have got a major in mind and have already started applying for colleges. I just hope that I can find a decent scholarship because I don't really want to depend on my parents' money. You might also want to look at getting legally emancipated once you are done with high school. Otherwise, the federal financial aid programs will require your parents' income information until you are 25, regardless of whether your parents will contribute. Your student awards are based on the assumption that they will, which means more loan debt that you would have to take on to cover it. Now for the update. First of all, I want to thank everyone for the amount of support that you guys have given. It was really overwhelming, and I can't express in words how much that meant to me. I was reading all the comments and everything till about 11 to 12, then decided to go home to face the family. I arrived home to quite a melancholic environment. As soon as I arrived, the first thing they all did was hug me, which honestly surprised me. This was probably the first time in years they were showing me any kind of affection. They had prepared some food for me, and after I ate, we all had a talk. My oldest nephew, 2 years younger than me, who often reads posts from the sub, saw it and showed it to my sister. They all first of all apologized for the way they treated me. They confirmed that I was an accident and none of them wanted to deal with another baby, and I basically ruined their life plans. They didn't word it this way. They didn't really want to do anything with me, so they just started ignoring me because I never seemed to need anything from them. Their reasoning was that I was always doing great in life. I always did my chores on time, kept my things neat and clean as a kid, always got good grades, never complained about anything, did great in sports, and they just assumed that I never required/wanted anything from them. So they were able to just keep ignoring me and pretend as if I wasn't there basically. They said that this didn't justify their behavior, especially after they read a post. They just wanted to explain their own actions. It just made it easy for them to ignore me. They all asked me to forgive them for alienating me, and they said that they would do their best from now on to make me feel as I was a part of the family. They then wanted to go out and celebrate my birthday, but I was just mentally and physically exhausted. So I just went to sleep, woke up in the evening, and just ended up playing games for the rest of the night and went back to sleep. I don't really know how to feel about this. I thought about it long and hard and decided I'll try to form some kind of bond with them if that's even possible. The one thing I'll do is trying to start to work and live for just myself right now. My priority is getting to college right now, and I'll mainly work towards that. If reconciliation doesn't work out, at least I have a goal and purpose in life to work towards until I get away from here. Thank you so much for helping me and supporting me through all this. If you guys have any further questions, please feel free to ask me, and once again, thank you. Just wanted to send you a huge fierce mom hug. You sound like an incredible and resilient person, and I hope you see your worth. You deserve better. I know you will achieve amazing things. Warmest thoughts and wishes. I wasn't there for your first post, so I just want to say I'm really sorry how things have gone the first 16 years of your life. No child should ever be put in your situation. With them at least admitting their faults, I would heavily suggest you push them to get you some individual, and if you're not comfortable, family therapy. I just want to comment, however, that I really dislike that they gave any sort of reasoning for their behavior past. We were selfish and acted selfishly. Especially when it puts a little of the blame on you. You were just easy to ignore. That is not true no matter how they try and justify it. It doesn't matter how much maintenance you require. A child who is fairly independent and self-sufficient will still get all the love and positive attention they need in a healthy family. The virtue of being your parent should have gotten you the love and attention required. You repeatedly tried to get their attention in a positive way that shouldn't have been needed. Put effort into learning your father's interests, made their birthday special, and many more acts, I'm sure, with no reciprocal acts. It's their own selfishness and only their selfishness that denied you. Please do not take their reasoning comments to heart. What probably ended up happening was your family had a hard look at themselves and thought, holy smokes, how did we let it get this bad? But because they probably don't think they're that bad a person to neglect a child for 16 years, they went with, well, if they truly needed help, we would have given it them. It is rude to say they would have done differently if you had acted differently. It shifts blame from their unacceptable actions to your behavior you did or didn't do. Preach. Of course they blame it all on you. They're still being selfish and not just rude, but so callous. A teen who's remarkably in touch with his feelings finally pours his heart out to them, and all they can do is victim blame. And what if Opie hadn't been the perfect child? I shudder to think how he would have been treated because their love isn't even conditional. Yikes. Honey, I don't know how to say this in a kind way, so I'm going to just rip the band-aid off. I don't think they're sorry, and I don't think anything will change. My parents didn't want me either, but I was fortunate that my paternal grandparents fought for custody and won. I'm 33 now, and my mother hasn't spoken to me for nearly a year. Haven't heard from my father in about 3 years. They go through these phases, my mom especially, where they're so sorry they were cruel and absent. So sorry. They'll change, they'll do anything. But they never do. Apologies without behavior change are worthless. You do not owe them a place in your life just because they are your biological family. You need to decide what you want your life with, or without, them to look like, what behavior changes you want to see from them, and what you're willing to do if they refuse. I'm sorry, honey, but I just wouldn't put much stock in their response here. I'm definitely not going to be hoping for them to come around, and I am mentally preparing myself in case things don't work out. Basically hoping for the best and preparing for the worst, if that makes any sense. I'm not going to be the one to reach out. The ball is in their court, and this time they will be the ones who will have to make a move. Now for the last story. My dad's male 54 affair has ruined my view on my, female 22, entire family. In April 2021, while my sister, female 28, and mother, female 46, were in our home country for my mom's teeth issues, I was staying home alone with my dad, male 54. I have always loved my family. Despite having a weird gut feeling about my dad, I never knew what it was. I trusted him, but I always felt like something was off. And I think it had definitely something to do with my mother always complaining about his wrongdoings from the past. She never mentioned any cheating though. It was always about him sending money to his parents and not helping her raise us. I remember feeling resentful towards my dad for that reason and hoping they would separate. But she hadn't left him. Because according to her, he is the best father ever, and we're lucky to have a dad like him. But she would still very regularly talk bad about him to us, and tell us she doesn't care how my dad lives his life because she is independent or whatever. Anyways, back to the story. My mom and sister were in sad home country because of my mom's teeth. She got all her teeth removed. She had gum recession, and would have to go back in July to get new teeth. One day, while my dad and I were home, I was cleaning the kitchen and heard him talking on the phone on the balcony. I heard him and was curious who he was talking to because it sounded like an apology to someone. And I was thinking some family member asking him for money again. But then he was saying things like, "Of course I will introduce my children to you. My youngest, me, will finish university this year, so until then I have to financially support her. But I want a life with you. I also want to meet your children. I want to finally live my life the way I want to. I want to live with you because we share the same views on life. We're soulmates. I was absolutely stunned when I heard these things. I knew my dad wasn't a great partner, but I really never guessed that he would actually cheat on my mom. I had no idea what to do. I just couldn't confront him at that moment. I decided to talk to my sister about it when they were back. 2 days after that happened, my mom and sister came back and my mom was in the worst mental state I have ever seen her in. She had all of her teeth removed and the denture they made for her didn't fit her, but she had to travel back, so that meant she had to stay without teeth until July. She felt extremely ugly. Her confidence and self-esteem were non-existent. I told my sister about my dad having an affair, and I expected her to be shocked about it, but she seemed so normal. She later told me that since she was a kid, my dad always had multiple different girlfriends. When she was 6 years old, he even introduced her to one of his girlfriends and continued to have affairs. The last one she knew about was in 2012. After that, she moved out anyways. Apparently, my mom knew about them all and they would argue, but she would never leave. I was so shocked. I have lived my entire life not knowing any of that. I asked her why she never told me, and she said it was because I was young. I told her I wanted to tell mom about it, but she told me we should wait until she gets her teeth done because she really wouldn't be able to deal with it. I said alright, and then suddenly my dad is cheering her up, making her feel good about herself, and they're more loving than they were before. So we decided to drop it. After that, I moved out. It honestly was the best time of my life. I hate living at home. I can't stand it. I can't think of anything else but that. I am temporarily back home, but I will move out again to do my master's and work. Anything my dad does pisses me off. I hate whenever my mom talks good about him. I feel so betrayed because she always preaches independence and how men ain't it, and talks bad about almost everybody's relationship. And I also can't believe how my sister can still be so normal to my dad and act like nothing ever happened. I feel so gaslit and it is driving me crazy. I just don't know how to deal with this, but I think when I am away from them, I will feel better again. I would love advice from people who have been through something similar. Now for the advice. I am so sorry he is like this. This is a lot, and probably above this form's ability level. Can you get to a therapist? It will help to have someone to talk all this out with who is also a pro. I think a therapist might really be the way to go. I've been thinking about it for some time, but never got to do it. If she is aware of the affairs and says she doesn't care how my dad lives his life because she is independent or whatever, and if he is being supportive and loving to her when she needs it the most, maybe this is just a relationship they have worked out between themselves. Now is probably not the best time to raise it with your mom, but have you tried talking about it with your dad? I don't think I can have this conversation with him honestly. Back when I was younger, my sister talked to him about it apparently, but he just cried in front of her and told her he is sorry and would not do it again. Update 2. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom that I will respect my dad's girlfriend more than my stepdad? This is part 2 of the story. You can watch the first part by clicking the card above or the link in the description. Second update. I know my post has been viral on Best of Reddit updates. The reposter asked for my permission for it, and I want to thank her, because she, along with many others, have defended my father from people who lack brain cells, in my opinion. I was really disappointed in the people who are calling my dad a deadbeat. Some even said that he mistreated my mom, that he has always been an alcoholic, that he was a gambler and a serial cheater. Some even said that my dad should never have custody of me because he was a screw-up. You guys seriously make me question humanity. Here is a guy who sacrificed everything for his daughter, put his own life on hold so that I do not have to feel uncomfortable. And all you guys have is nothing but criticism for him? Shame on you guys for berating someone who had already been through enough. I choose to forgive my dad because he acknowledged his mistakes. Also, he wasn't even that big of an alcoholic. He never had any drinking problem prior to the affair of my mom. Usually, he used to drink in silence, and never in front of me. That was the only freaking time he let himself go. Can't you guys just look past it? Or are you guys so petty that you are turning a blind eye on his sacrifices? And no, my dad is not a crappy dad at all. I guess you cannot please everyone. People are just going to draw their own conclusion. Also, please don't insult my intelligence by saying I don't know what happened. Over the last 7 years, I've been driving myself crazy over it. I asked my mom why she did it. I even asked if my dad was a bad husband or abusive, and she denied both of those claims. Also, recently I went through the same tragedy as my dad. I found out that my boyfriend of 2 years was cheating on me with my friend. I understand my dad more now that I am literally walking in his shoes. I'm really devastated. I still cry a lot because of the betrayal I felt from those two people. My dad has tried everything to cheer me up, and I am not in contact with my mom. And I just opened Reddit to keep my mind out of the complications in my life, but looking at how people are literally dragging my dad through the mud just made me angry. Now for the comments before reading the last update. There are always trolls in here, OP. I feel both you and your dad have done a very good job at turning the difficult corners of your life. It is commendable he only turned to despair for 1 year. He is only human. Ignore those who called him deadbeat, / alcoholic, etc. As you know and we know it's not the truth. When the trolls hit the same betrayal, then they will feel it too. Actually, for your dad to pull himself up from alcohol in such a short time is also commendable. You are right to be proud of him. Try to pick selective reading. Read only the good ones and ignore the disturbing ones. Now, I hope to hear good news about your dad, his girlfriend, and you, okay? Take care. My dad is sad because I am sad. We are supposed to go to Disneyland next week. Now I'm not excited anymore. I've always wanted to go there, and my dad promised on my 9th birthday that he would take me. That didn't happen, as you know why. Finally, he wanted to take me there after saving some money, but I don't think I will be able to enjoy it now. I can't even ask him to cancel it because he planned this trip for us for the last 2 years. He is still with his girlfriend. She did visit me yesterday and we talked. As for my mom, I am not talking to her now. It is just too much to handle all at once. Just go no contact with your mother, as she will cause you more sadness. If you were to ask my advice, for now just get a part-time job. Go to the gym, jogging, and find some hobby, as you are suffering because of your mother and your ex-boyfriend and ex-friend. You need to go out and find something. Just be happy. Well, I'm trying. My dad planned to take me to Disneyland next week, but I don't think I can enjoy it. Part of me wants to tell my dad to cancel it, but then again he would lose a lot of money. I always wanted to go there, but now I just can't get excited. OP, you seem like you have a good head on your shoulders. Please do not take any haters of your dad seriously. Ignore the trolls. The haters do not know what you and your dad went through, do not know your day-to-day activities, and may be projecting too much. Keep being strong, proud of you, and wishing you the best going forward. Also, wear your sunscreen. The last one made me laugh. Thanks. I will. Now for the last update. A lot of you have messaged me and asked to keep you guys updated. So, before I update, I want to thank those of you who have come to show support for me and my dad. I have read or tried to read your messages and comments, and honestly, those positive messages really got to me. I was not upset by the trolls. Also, I had beef with few of them too, but if I ever said something bad, then please forgive me. I'm still a little sad. Anyways, back to the update. Well, from my last post, you guys can see that I have in fact been cheated on. It is funny because in my first post, I mentioned that the last time I had a fight with my stepdad, I told him I hope his son gets cheated on, so he knows how that feels. And now here I am losing my boyfriend and my friend because they stabbed me in the back. I guess it is karma. The breakup is still fresh in my mind. I still cry sometimes thinking about it, but I am glad I have my other friends, and obviously my dad with me, so I can hope I will be fine. And yes, I did end up going to Disneyland with my dad, and we had a lot of fun. But my dad ended up becoming sick after we came back for a little while. He is better now. I guess he had some bad food on the trip. Otherwise, he is fine. I finally spoke to my mom. She came to visit me at my dad's house. My dad rarely sees her, so he was also shocked to see her. She looked a bit out of place, as if she was entering Narnia. She wanted to talk to me and my dad. Dad went inside his room to give us some privacy to talk. Then we sat down. She apologized to me for acting so irrationally and never taking my feelings into account. I don't know what happened, but I asked her if she ever felt any guilt for cheating on my dad. She cried and said that she has always been guilty of how things ended between my dad and her. She didn't go much into details, but at the same time, my dad and her were having some marriage problems. She and dad wanted to work things out, but she was still feeling empty. Then, my stepdad came and she found an escape from her life with him. She said she was selfish. She wanted to have it all, but she knew someday her lies will be caught, and it did. She mentioned that she and dad have grown distant because of the affair. She does regret and wishes she could have handled it better. She has spent 7 years or more with my stepdad, but deep down she still had feelings for my dad. Some days she even wakes up and guilt washes over her. She regrets ever starting the affair. The problem was not my dad nor my stepdad. The problem was her, and she knows she has messed up a lot. I also opened up to her about my struggles in life, how I had to deal with the downfall of their marriage, and how it has affected me over the last few years. I wish she had just ended things in a good way, rather than introducing a man that has become the bane of my existence. I wish he hadn't pushed me to accept him, knowing the pain it cost both me and my dad, and he doesn't even seem to feel any remorse. She cried heavily this time and said she knows now how wrong it was, but she thought that if I accepted my stepdad, then the affair wouldn't look so bad on her. I wanted to tell her that she was stupid, and that's not how it works. I then asked her why she was so obsessed with Layla, my dad's girlfriend, and she told me that ever since their divorce, there has always been a little spark of hope that someday her and dad would be together. She knows it is foolish for her to think that, but her subconscious mind was telling her that she and dad are the endgame. But learning that he has moved on and started dating just freaked her out. I told her that is BS, because she was the one who married her affair partner and went on to have a family with him. It is so disgusting and immoral for her to even think that, especially after she was the one who cheated and left. If she still thinks that she has a chance with dad, then she is either delusional or simply stupid. She doesn't get to dictate how others feel and doesn't get to control what I feel. She says she understands and has been a mess for a long time. She opens up about her own marital situation, which is not good at the moment. I also shared my story of being cheated on. She tried to hug me and said it will be okay, but it just made me angry. I told her I don't need her sympathy now, especially in matters of cheating. I do love her as a mother. I am grateful that she has cared for me and especially being honest with me about the situation. But I do not want to talk to her now. I want to go low contact until she sorts things that are messed up with her. She needs therapy, and she only should focus on my half-brother. After our conversation ended, my mom and dad talked in his room. I didn't try to eavesdrop or tried to listen, so I do not know what they talked about. But after coming out of the room, my mom looked very defeated. After that, we talked a little and she bid us goodbye. I did tell her that I want her in my graduation and other big events, but I want to have some boundaries when it comes to my stepdad. So that closes the mom chapter for a while. And yes, my dad knows about my mom's meltdown, and that's why I wanted to talk to her in private. I don't think this issue is solved here. I honestly laughed a little because my dad and mom has not been in contact for a long time, and he should know. On the bright side, I did get to meet Layla's kids. Ever since my dad became sick, she has been coming frequently to cook or clean. Sometimes she would bring her kids, and I do enjoy playing with them. I always wished to have siblings, and now I have 3. Hopefully this will be my last update. I honestly thank anyone who has given me some good advice and comments. I hope you guys have a lovely life, and thank you so much for the support. Good on your mom for finally looking at this from another perspective and accepting and apologizing for your experience rather than focusing solely on her own. I think going low contact with her makes sense though. Just because she's finally apologized and seems to realize the magnitude of what she did doesn't mean you have to forgive her. And she doesn't seem ready for a real relationship if she's still holding out hope for something to happen with your dad. Best wishes, OP. I don't want her to only focus on me because she has bigger problems in her own marriage now. I'm fine. I have people here, so I shouldn't be her first priority now. That is a great attitude, but also please don't worry about being a little selfish. You're not an adult yet, and a parent's responsibility and focus should always be their kids to a certain extent. If you need her, don't avoid contacting her because you want to give her the space to focus on her struggling marriage. Wow, yeah, the mother is at least a bit delusional here, but it seems she's been forced to see reality now. Hope things get better for her going forwards, but it's a hole she dug herself into, and now she has to climb back out of. You don't get to do that kind of thing without consequences. You would think all those years of her daughter hating her would have made her see reality. Only her jealousy over her ex-husband made her see reality. At least she finally admitted it. This is the worst part to me. Her daughter's pain and hatred didn't matter to her, only that she lost her delusion of being able to go back to the relationship she destroyed when her ex started dating. That poor man scraped the bottom of the barrel when he found this lady. I'm honestly displeased that she felt the need to defend her father more than once. Those a-holes aren't worth her attention. In her second last post, she was referring to the original post in BORU. I did see people saying her dad must have been having gambling problem, or maybe he also cheated or he always had drinking problem. I saw a lot of them dogpiling in Opie's dad. The comments were ridiculous. People blaming his drinking even after Opie clarified multiple times that only started after the affair/divorce. Some people just want to stay on their bandwagon. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad's wife that +1s don't get accommodations? I'm 27 female and my husband welcomed our daughter 7 months ago. I do not live in the same country as my divorced parents, so they both separately came to meet the baby when she was born. My dad met her when she was a month old and hasn't been able to make it back since, so we planned a visit for later in the month and asked if he could bring his wife Anna, which I said was okay. Over the past week, Anna has been asking for an increased number of changes to the plans we've made for the week. She wants to go to different places, different restaurants. She even tried to change the dates to be more convenient for her. I was getting a bit fed up of this and told my dad numerous times that I'd planned things with him, myself, and my daughter in mind. So I didn't really appreciate Anna thinking she could mix and match what she wanted to do. My dad said he understood, but that still didn't stop him texting me with her requests, all of which I declined. Yesterday, she texted me directly asking if we could plan a day trip to a town an hour and 15 minutes away because she'd always wanted to go there. I told her I'm absolutely not going on a 4-hour round trip to a town I've been to 400 times with an infant, and if she wants to go, she must organize that in her own time. She responded that this trip was her own time, to which I said she is welcome to hire a car and drive there at any time she wants, but I will not be going. She said it wasn't fair that I hadn't acquiesced to any of her requests, at which point I got irritated and told her that +1s don't get to make the schedule, and that if she didn't like the itinerary, she shouldn't feel pressured to come. My dad blew up on me for saying this, saying I should have just asked him to handle it, and now I've upset her by insinuating that she wasn't welcome, which I don't think I did. I told my dad I'm not fussed whether she comes or not, but she is tagging along on this trip to see his granddaughter, and she needs to be respectful of that. He said that is not how she saw it, that she saw it as more of a communal holiday, and that I was harsh for what I said, and an a-hole for sticking him in the middle. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Let's break it down. 1. You are a new mom, recovering from a birth still, and you and your husband have a 7-month-old infant. 2. Your dad's wife is making weird and reasonable extra travel demands and pretending the trip to bond with your baby is her own personal holiday. 3. Your own dad won't even stand up for you and is mad you somehow put him in the middle? He is putting you in the middle by not standing up for you. Just know, enjoy your new little family, though I truly hope your dad comes around. I feel like your title is a bit misleading actually, and leaning toward your dad's wife's side. The real problem seems to be that she is trying to turn bonding time into her personal holiday. To be fair to him, he did tell her no to her previous requests when I said I wasn't happy. I think he wanted me to keep funneling communication through him so that he could manage her better. Honestly, this sounds like it's your dad's fault. He should have stopped funneling her requests to you when you made it clear you weren't interested in them, and talked to his wife about making their own touristy plans together or whatever in their free time in your country. Since I assume you didn't have your dad's schedule planned down to every minute, there's nothing stopping him and Anna from doing stuff. Anna shouldn't have texted you directly. She is tagging along on this trip to see his granddaughter, and she needs to be respectful of that. He said that is not how she saw it, that she saw it as more of a communal holiday, and that I was harsh for what I said and an a-hole for sticking him in the middle. However, Anna's viewing the trip is your dad's fault. He is the one who has communicated about this trip with her and invited her, so her perception of the trip is his fault. It's not yours and it's not necessarily hers. Your dad needs to compromise here with both parties, you and Anna, because if he wants to bring Anna on this trip, it sounds like he and Anna occasionally will need time to do their own thing, which is totally valid when you're traveling to a different country and want to do some different stuff. And with a 7-month-old, there will be a plenty of downtime. He and Anna need to work this out without involving you. I agree. I probably do need to talk to him about that. But also, if she views this as her own holiday, I don't understand why she keeps making suggestions that I need to be involved in. If you have a restaurant you want to go with my dad, go. If it's your trip, I don't have to. Am I the a-hole for hosting a fundraiser, bluntly saying that it was for a teenager whose parents left her homeless? Her parents are furious. My youngest daughter is a senior in high school. One of her best friends, Lily, just turned 18 as the school year was starting and her parents kicked her out of the house that same day. My daughter told me she was sleeping on different friends' couches and talking about dropping out to work a job. So my family took her in so she could finish school. I just can't imagine a parent kicking their kid out like that. So after we did that, my daughter and Lily decided to have a community barbecue/bake sale to fundraise for some money to cover food and housing expenses. It wasn't anything I ever asked for, but the girls wanted to do something to contribute for groceries and bills. The girls made flyers and little promos for social media, and they were pretty straightforward about what was going on. They said, community barbecue/fundraiser for Lily, and a note from Lily saying, as you may know, my parents kicked me out of the house and cut off any financial support on my 18th birthday, leaving me homeless with no money or car. The Smiths gave me a home, expecting nothing in return except I stay in school and graduate. I wanted to do something to give back and pay my own way. Anyway, I shared that on social media and so did the girls, and a lot of their friends at school. The barbecue was a huge success. Almost all of our neighbors came by, and so many kids from my daughter's school and a lot of our family and family friends. The girls ended up raising several $1,000s, which I ended up putting in an education fund for Lily, where I'm also putting stuff like the cash she gives me from her job for groceries, and stuff like that. I'm planning on surprising her with it closer to graduation. Anyway, Lily's parents are irate. They saw that I posted a flyer on a community Facebook page and most everyone in town saw it. I got a call from her dad screaming into the phone at me for slandering their family online, which I felt like was such BS. I told him to either buck up and act like a parent ought to or lose my number. He started yelling on the phone again, so I hung up and blocked his number. Then I got a bunch of calls from another number. It was Lily's mom, getting angry at me about how I don't know what she and her husband have been through, and it was trashy of me to be begging the whole town for money for myself and acting like it was their fault. I was like, well, it was your fault. And she got so angry and said that she and her husband had given her daughter everything, and that she was ungrateful, which I feel is BS because they ain't even giving her a roof over her head. Am I the a-hole for letting my daughter and her friend who was kicked out at 18 host a fundraiser that was very blunt? Said it was to raise money after her family kicked her out? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Frankly, that's just a horrible thing for a parent to do. If they don't want to get slandered, maybe don't kick your child out the instant they become an adult. As many people have pointed out, it isn't actually slander against the parents if it's true. I used slander for lack of a better term. The idea that kids magically become adult the moment they turn 18 is such BS. These awful parents were only acting as parents because they were legally required to be. The moment their child was legally an adult, they felt like they were off the hook. I'm sure their daughter is better off without them, but what a difficult journey that is. Loving parents try to make their kids' life better, not worse. Not the a-hole. They're just annoyed they've been called out on their horrible behavior, and now everyone knows about their crappy parenting. They're ashamed and angry that they've been exposed, but they're putting the blame on you instead of reflecting on their own issues. You could end a thread right there, honestly. They kicked an 18-year-old out on day one of adulthood, unprepared in the slightest. Unless she's the worst person ever. That's absolutely messed up. Not the a-hole. Imagine kicking your high schooler out of the house and then getting upset at people trying to help her out. They're probably angry they can't get their hands into fundraiser money. Right? They sound like the type of parents who think their daughter owes them something since they gave her life even though she didn't ask to be born. Infuriating. Next story. Am I the a-hole for embarrassing our female coworker? Both my husband and I work for a dispensary as co-owners and managers. He is inventory manager and I'm kitchen manager, though up until last month I was at a different shop. I recently got the transfer approval. In our shop, we only employ 11 people, 3 women including me, and 8 men. One of the women is the owner's wife and she handles the finances while the other woman, Jen, handles the front end. Now, to be blunt here, Jen is a smoke show. Drop-dead gorgeous young lady, and to be blunt again, all the men here drool over her. Probably my husband included. I mean, even I drool over her, let's be honest. But she's also, I don't know how to put it. She runs through the men here. She has already dated or hooked up with 3 of them, and recently her eyes went to my husband. I'm used to this type of behavior because my husband is also a solid 10 on a bad day. But she also knows he is married, so there is definitely a disrespectful aspects of things there. However, she did not know that I was his wife until this morning. So my husband came to me yesterday and was like, "Listen, Jen has been trying to take breaks with me, and she often gets into my truck without asking whenever she sees me sitting outside, asking that I smoke her up and being flirty, as in touching his arms and legs type of thing." So I asked if he wanted me to handle it, and he said, "Please, but don't be rude about it." Because he had already told her several times he was married, and her only response is, "Oh, I already know that," and continues on her BS. Well, I knew this break was at 10, and I made a point to come out a few minutes later. I walked to the truck, and lo and behold, Jen is in the front seat. I hear my husband say, "That's my wife's seat," and she just giggles and says she is keeping it warm. Please note we are in our 30s and this girl is 23. So, I go up to the window and say, "Thanks for keeping my seat warm, but I'm here now." She just scowls at me and says, "We are kind of talking here." So I go, "Yes, I see that, and now I would like to speak to my husband," with a smile on my face. Her face drops and she gets out quickly. Now the problem is that 3 of the guys were sitting there too, and they immediately start laughing, which embarrassed her even more. The owner's wife said I should have pulled Jen aside and said something versus embarrass her in front of everyone. Am I the a-hole? Apparently, Jen and the owner's wife are the only one who thinks so. Not the a-hole. Wait, so your husband directly told her to stop her behavior. It was unprofessional/unwanted. It's not cute or funny or whatever. And she continued to harass him? Why has she just not been fired? She is the owner's wife's cousin. She has been reported several times, but due to this girl being related to the owners, nothing is done. How many times has your husband had a documented meeting with HR about being harassed by this woman? Does he have the documentation showing that HR has declined to take care of the issue? He personally has only reported it once as it just recently started happening, and he does have the written statement he made to the owner's wife. This was 5 days ago. However, there are 2 other male employees whom have reported her at least 3 times between the 2 of them, and one of them didn't get a written statement as the owner's wife said it wasn't necessary. Next story. Am I the a-hole for turning away a friend after he showed up to my birthday dinner without RSVPing? I had a birthday dinner this weekend. A week before the dinner, I sent a mass text out to 8 of my friends, telling them the location, date, and time, and to let me know by a certain date if they are coming so that I can make a reservation at a hibachi place. Most people said they could come, one friend said they couldn't make it, and another friend never responded. A couple days later, I was talking to one of the friends I invited about the dinner and they said they thought the friend who didn't answer was coming, but they weren't sure. I said that he needs to RSVP so I have the exact head count for the reservation. I never heard from the friend who didn't respond, so I made a reservation accordingly. I should add that before I made a reservation, I texted in the mass text chain with, "Last chance to RSVP as I'm making the reservation at this time today." The day of my dinner, the friend who didn't respond showed up right as the hostess was asking for the name of the reservation. I told her that we had an extra person show up, and I apologized. She looked to see if she could place all of us, but was unable to find a place to accommodate an extra person without us having to wait 2 hours. So I told the friend who didn't RSVP that he could not join us for dinner. He got mad and told me I was a bad friend. He told me it was embarrassing to be turned away from a birthday party and that he wasted time and gas coming out. I told him he should have RSVP'd. He told me he told our friend that he might be going. I told him that wasn't good enough, and he should have told me. He told me that I should have asked him if he was coming. Am I the a-hole? Edit. For those stating I should have assumed he was coming because another friend said he might be, I don't work off of hearsay. Especially since the friend who said this is known for saying lots of things that don't turn out to be true or turn out to not happen. I never take what they say seriously. Now for the top comments. He got mad and told me I was a bad friend, says the guy who didn't RSVP 2 times. He apparently told me he told our friend that he might be going. Even then he was not sure if he was gonna come. He told me that I should have asked him if he was coming. What does this guy think an RSVP is? Does he want someone to take a paper slip with, "Will you come to my birthday dinner?" Tick yes or no? Someone like this is not a friend. Not the whole. Cut him off from your life. You don't need this toxic and manipulative embarrassment of a human being for a friend. He told someone who wasn't involved in making the reservation that he might be coming. He didn't even mention it to Opie. He clearly was just digging himself into a hole by blaming Opie and couldn't even see it. Nice friend. Actually, I'm thinking he was hedging his bets. He didn't know if he was going because he was waiting to see if he had any better options for them. He didn't, or his first choice fell through, so he just went with a backup option. Not the whole. He had 2 chances to RSVP. He ignored both. That's on him. Not the whole. You asked people to RSVP. He didn't. You didn't include him in the reservation. End of story. Telling another friend he might be coming is not an adequate RSVP. Or actually not an RSVP at all. I was like Opie's friend back in my 20s. Can't speak for the friend, but for me, I was really distracted all the time and unable to make a commitment. Until my friends let me know that my behavior was not okay. I just went along my merry way, being obtuse and rude but without ill intent. I'm not saying this to excuse Opie's friend, more to point out that Opie did exactly the right thing by drawing a line in the sand. Best case scenario is that Opie's friend is just flighty, and not a true fundamental a-hole, and he just needed a kick in the pants to shape up. Hopefully this will do the trick. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not paying for my stepbrother and sister-in-law's expenses after kicking them out? I, 29 female, was hosting a party for my mom and stepdad's wedding anniversary. I flew out my 3 step-siblings and their partners to all spend a week in my city, and then on the weekend we would have the party. I and my husband live in a pretty small flat, so there wasn't enough rooms for everyone to stay. So we offered for my stepbrother Mark and his partner Fran to stay on our yacht for the week. No one in our family likes Fran, because she's a militant social justice warrior and can't keep her opinions to herself, and she's always no general etiquette. So the week went on with Fran making out-of-pocket comments about our city and lifestyle, which was expected but still annoying. One night, me and my husband were attending a party and I didn't really fancy inviting Fran and Mark, but we did. And surprisingly everything was fine, though we didn't see them for most of the evening. We invited a few people back to our yacht for an after-party and of course Mark and Fran were there. Fran was quite intoxicated and started again making inappropriate comments that were making people feel a bit awkward. One of our friends was telling a story about how he did something funny that incurred a fine. Fran got upset and said how the fine he had paid was more than most people make in a year, and he should be ashamed to be happy to throw that much money around. She said she was sad to see the amount of money being spent in our city and how ungrateful and wasteful we all are. Cue awkward silence. I jokingly said that next time Fran should take herself camping because I didn't spend the money to fly her out here, treat her to dinners and parties and yachts for her to be sad. And everyone laughed and moved on. Eventually, everyone left and we went to bed. The next morning, I told Mark and Fran that I was humiliated and horrified by her behavior, and I wouldn't have people being disrespectful to me while staying on my property. Of course, they were still welcome to come to the party and the flights home were taken care of, but they couldn't stay on the yacht until the party. I probably would have relented if there had been genuine remorse from them, but Fran doubled down on her attitude and I'd had it. After a brief argument, they left and went to stay in a hotel. The party went off without a hitch. We were all keeping the peace for parents' sake. A few days after they'd gone home, they sent me a bill for their hotel stay, saying that since I'd kicked them off the yacht, I should pay for their expenses. I sent them a response telling them where they could put their bill. This made the rounds and my parents are now asking that I pay the bill, as it was a lot of money for them and not for me. They came on holiday with the expectation that they wouldn't have to budget for accommodation. I said they wouldn't have had to if they'd had an ounce of decency, and that I won't be paying. But my parents are begging me so that it doesn't impact Mark and Fran financially. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Since this is a point of contention, yes, we did ask Mark and Fran if they were okay with the after party. Mark in particular was a fan of someone coming to the after party, so was very enthusiastic about it. And Fran said yes also. Had they wanted to go to bed, we'd have gone elsewhere. They came on holiday with the expectation that they wouldn't have to budget for accommodation. Well, you invited them and accommodated them with the expectation that you wouldn't be inconvenienced or humiliated by their disrespectful, sanctimonious behavior. So they should just learn to live with their disappointment just as you do with yours. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You don't bite the hand that feeds you. OP paid for an entire trip and friend wanted to criticize them for it while still reaping the benefits. This isn't about rich versus poor. I get why people can get upset with those living lavishly. It is about benefiting from someone's kindness and showing no tact or grace or respect. That's a good point. Friend may well have a point and or justification for her arguments, but for goodness sake, there's a time and a place. Spouting off about yacht-owning people being evil whilst on said yacht is kind of stupid. That said, I'm a bit confused why someone has a small flat but owns a yacht. I feel like yacht-owning people would live in some kind of large home. But what do I know? I'm not one of the yacht-owning people. Just about the yacht thing, in our city it's pretty common. Property is super expensive. And even if you have an obscene amount of money, you won't get the kind of space you would find in New York City or Dubai, for example. They just don't build like that here. So our apartment is quite pokey. It is a 5-bedroom, but with my other step-siblings there and my husband using one as an office, we didn't have any spare space, and the rooms aren't ones where you could double up. That said, even this apartment was multiple times the cost of the yacht, so the yacht wasn't out of our means of spending. And it's the same for so many people here. Info. One of our friends was telling a story about how he did something funny that incurred a fine. Would someone who doesn't own a yacht consider this a funny anecdote? Or is that a question you can even answer? Yes, it wasn't funny, haha. It was one of those things you look back on and go, yeah, that was funny in hindsight. And he told it humorously. But it wasn't an out of touch, I backed my Lambo into a lake kind of thing. It was something that could have happened to anyone. And it's only because of the job he does that he got a fine from the association that his job is under. Other people do things like he did all the time and there is no fine.